Hey, what's going on, Ninth Age? This is Obsidian Anubis. I'm back with another Ninth Age Brush and Fluff video. Brush and Fluff number 6. So, those of you who watch my channel, you know that me and my gaming partner picked up a Dread Elf army recently. However, neither of us is really a Dread Elf player per se. So, what it did allow us to do, though, is it gave us all these crazy ideas for a new army, using those figures to convert to make an army. And so we decided to make a Fae Folk book, which I've now uploaded and should be on the Ninth Age forums. So this video is going to be talking about the homebrew Fae Folk rulebook that me and my gaming partner generated. So to give you a little background for this army book, so the idea behind it is, so the elves from all three of the elven nations, so High Elves, Sylvan Elves, and Dread Elves, a group of elves have left from each of those. So from the High Elves, some elves that have grown kind of tired of the aristocracy and all the political parties have decided to leave. Same with the Sylvan, except for those are all the elves who are tired of being, hermits in the woods have left. And then all the elves for the Dread Elves that are tired of sacrificing people to the dark gods have also left. So these kind of three groups have joined together to make a fourth group of elves known as Grey Elves, which are just kind of a group summation of the other elven nations. And these elves, they're not strictly good or evil. They're more of a balance of power. So they are more of a neutral force which goes out against any force which grows too powerful, whether it be good or evil. But they're not alone either. They've joined forces with a group of, or the Fae, from beyond the mortal realm, from beyond the Veil. So they've joined with the Fae Folk of fairies from the fairy realm, which is beyond the Veil. And so they come in with kind of different sizes as well, but they also are kind of overall a balancing army for a balance of power, where there's both good and evil within the army itself, but they work together to make it so that there's no one side which is overpowered. So that's kind of the background behind how this army book was formed. So let's go and look into some of the army special rules. So as I said, a large component of this army is Fae. So the Fae are from creatures from outside the mortal world. So they have the otherworldly special rule, as well as the aversion to iron special rule. So the aversion to iron special rule is the one right below it. And attacks made by mundane weapons against models with aversion to iron special rule reduce those models' ward saves to otherworldly to 6+. In addition, the wearer may not take magical armor of the type heavy armor. So again, because the Fae are not from the mortal realm, and metal is basically a sickness to them, they grow weaker against it. So if somebody's attacking with a mundane weapon, then their 5-up goes to a 6-up ward save, and they are restricted to taking magic items. So they can't take magic items which are heavy armor, which are predominantly usually metal armor. So there's also renowned skill. So this is an elven trait. A model with this special rule may reroll all natural to roll wounds of a 1 in close combat. So this is, like I said, this is an elven trait, so most of the elves will have this. So for the armory, so the first is a repeater crossbow. It's a shooting weapon, range 24 inches, strength 3, armor piercing 1, multiple shots 2. So this is verbatim from the Dread Elf book. So as I said, a group of the elves are originally Dread Elves, so they brought the reaper crossbows with them when they joined this army. Next is Armor of the Fae. So Armor of the Fae is not metallic, and models wearing Armor of the Fae may not be target of hits caused by spells or metal shifting abilities. So again, because the Fae, everything is natural in the Fae realm, they don't wear metal armor, so they can't really be the target of metal spells, basically. The next one is Fae Blades. These are close combat weapons, they're paired weapons, and attacks made by Fae Blades gain armor piercing 1. So I think these are the same or akin to Sylvan Blades from the Sylvan book. Again, because a large portion of the army comes from the Sylvan nation, the elves kind of carry that with them. Lance of Thorns. This is a close combat weapon. It's a light lance. Attacks made with the Lance of Thorn gain lethal strike and armor piercing 1. So again, you can kind of see the similarities between this book and some of the other elven books, because it is kind of a composition of the others. However, like I said, it does have a large portion of its army which is outside the elven realm, and these are the Fae courts. So there's two types of courts. There's the Seelie and the Unseelie. So Seelie, Fae models who are part of the Seelie court gain Distracting and Strider and they lose renown skill if they had it. So this makes it a little bit harder to hit and kind of makes it a little bit faster. The Seelie court is usually figures who are usually lightly armored, but they're harder to hit, versus the Unseelie, which Fae models whom a part of the Unseelie court gain hatred and lose renown skill if they had it. So these ones are usually a bit more heavily armored. They're usually more deadly in combat per se, but they usually hit easier as well. Court rivalry. A model can never belong to more than one court. Units containing models belonging to a court cannot benefit from hold your ground or inspiring presence from the models of the other court. Characters belonging to a court cannot join units which contain models of the other court. So although the courts are working together and are at the moment not particularly at war with one another, traditionally they don't really get along either. So you can have an army which is a mix of Unseelie and Seelie, you just can't mix characters and units in the same army. And then the next one is Court General. So if the general belongs to a court, the Fae Folk army may not include models from the other court. So if you take a general, which is part of the Seelie court, you couldn't take Unseelie models. And if you take an Unseelie general, you can't take Seelie models. So it's kind of vice versa. So you can take an elf general who is not part of either court, and in that case you could have a multi-cultural or court army where you can have both courts. So let's go and go to the magic items. So I know in a lot of the homebrew books people have tons of magic items. I tried to keep it to a minimum and actually had both a fun time and a hard time coming up with magic items. So this is what we came up with. So the Lance of Fate for 90 points, it's mounted only, it's a light lance, and wards and regeneration saves may not be taken against this weapon. So I figured this would be good for a mounted character, mounted anyways, and it makes it so that somebody doesn't just get a lucky ward of regeneration save. So this kind of guarantees you to do hopefully some wounds to your opponent. The next is the Blades of the Unseelie, 70 points, Unseelie only. It's a paired weapon. Every unsaved wound caused by the bearer with this weapon generates another attack at the same initiative step. Resolve these attacks before removing any casualties. These attacks do not generate further attacks. So again, as I said, the Unseelie are much more the combat prowess of the Fae. So this weapon would be really good for a character who can do lots of damage and then get more attacks, so that way they can do a lot of high energy, low piercing attacks. So then we go to magic armor. So there's two. The first is the Diadem of the Queen for 80 points, and you have to be part of the court. You can either be Seelie or Unseelie, but you have to be a court. It has no type, but it is a 6-up armor save. And then all units of the same court as the wearer may reroll failed leadership tests. This army may not include a battle standard bearer. So this kind of is a replacement for BSB. It's akin to the Heartbreaker, I think, from the Ogre Kingdom's Ogre Con book. Well, if you have all this of the same court, don't have to, well, you get a reroll, and it's table wide. So it's not quite as good because if your queen dies, then obviously you don't get it anymore. It's kind of like a BSB. But it just allows you to have a larger inspiring presence, so you can kind of have an army which is spread out and not just all grouped together. Next is Armor of the Wildwood for 30 points. It's light armor, and it gives +1 toughness. So again, both the elves and Fae are relatively squishy, so this makes them just a little bit more tough, so they're a little bit more resilient against strong attacks. Next one is Talismans. So the first one is the Fairy Ring for 60 points. Infantry only. The wearer of the Fairy Ring gains Fly 8 special rule. In addition, the wearer has magic resistance 1. So the Fairy can kind of bounce around and is somewhat magic resistant, so it's hard for opponents to just target them with magic. The next is the Balturite Stone for 50 points. Multiple wounds suffered by the bearer are halved, rounded up. So it's just a nice little stone for a character, so that way if they get hit by a multi-wound character or unit, they don't suffer as many casualties, since most of the elves are kind of squishy. Like I said, they only have about 3 wounds. Next is enchanted items. So the first one is the Duro Seeds. So this is for 80 points, and it's for the Seelie only. In the pre-game sequence, after determining deployment zones, the player can change one terrain feature into a forest. That must be no larger than 10 inches in length and 6 inches in width. The center of the forest must correspond to the center of the replaced terrain feature. So, at first glance of this, it seems like a kind of a weird item. You notice it does go only with the Seelie, and the reason is that for this is the Seelie have a lot of wood or forest based abilities, which you'll see later on as we go through the book. So this kind of guarantees you at least one forest that allows you to use some of your other abilities that we'll see later on. The next one is the Horn of the Sirens for 80 points. One use only. The bearer gains Breath Weapon, Strength 3 magic attack that follows the Siren Song special ability. So it gives the wearer a Breath Weapon, which is only Strength 3, and it's not flammable, it's just magical attacks. But it also gives the special ability Siren Song, which is the Sirens are a special Fae group that has been added in this book, and when we get to them, we'll talk about the Siren Song and what it does. So next is the Arcane Items, and there's only one in this one category, and this is the Cauldron of Fates for 60 points. Argument spells cast by the bearer have their casting values reduced by 1. So this, if you go for a very kind of like a buff army where you have a lot of spells to buff yourself up, this, if you take this, it makes it easier to cast. Well, kind of in contradictory to that is the Magic Standard, the U Standard for 50 points. Enemy spells target the bearer's unit have their casting values increased by 1. So this is kind of the opposite. So this would be going for basically the opposite type of list where you have a big combat block that you don't want to get blasted by magic. You can put the U Standard in there and it makes it harder for them to be targeted. So those are the magic items that we generated and put up. So hopefully you guys like those. If not, I'd love to... Oh yeah, I should have said, if you guys can give feedback or comments on any part of this book, that would be fantastic. Anyway, so if we go to army composition, so there's 6 slots. The first is characters, which is 40%, which is standard. The next is core for 25%, which is also standard. Special, no limit. Hunters, this is max 30, so this has a lot of the range of the army. The next part is the Fae Folk, which has max 45%, so it's a really large category. However, a lot of the core units also take space in the Fae Folk. As we go through the book, you'll see that. So that's why this section is so large, is it requires a lot of kind of working out and playing with. Because a lot of your units take both core and Fae, or characters, a lot of the mounts come out of the Fae Folk. And the last group is the Betok, which is max 25 points, and these are basically the big monsters. Alright, so now that we've gone through all the special rules and magic items, let's go ahead and get into the army, the good stuff. So the first one is the Masters of Balance. So these are elven characters. You can take 2 versions of them, the Flaith or the Tiarna. They both have movement 5. The Flaith has weapon skill 7, while the Tiarna only has weapon skill 6, same with Ballistics skill. They're both strength 4, toughness 3, wounds 3. The Flaith has initiative 8 versus 7. The Flaith also has additional attack, so it's 4 versus 3, as well as additional leadership. So Flaith has leadership 10, Tiarna has leadership 9. They both come with Fae light armor, so they both come with light armor. And like I said, they're both elves, so they both come with renowned skill and lightning reflexes. And then if we go through some of the options, so the Flaith base is 260, where the Tiarna is 160. So there's there's a 100-point difference between the two. You can make the Tiarna a BSB for 50 points. And they both have the regular allotment for magic points, 2,000 for the Flaith, 100 for the Tiarna. And then they have the following options, which they can take one of. So they can join the Seelie Court for 40 for the Flaith or 20 for the Tiarna. They can join the Unseelie Court for 20 for the Flaith and 10 for the Tiarna. You can make them a Terrain Master for 80 for the Flaith and 60 for the Tiarna. And what the Terrain Master does is, so models with a special rule gain innate defense 5+, but may not take any mount. So you have to be on foot. Enemy units that break from combat from the Terrain Master must make dangerous terrain 1. For each enemy model with this special rule, a single unit of shepherds may be upgraded with the ambush special rule. So basically what the idea here is because you're a master at picking your battlefields and where you want to fight, so that if an opponent breaks from combat from you, they'll fling over difficult terrain, and so they have a lot of them get, they're easier for your troops to capture and destroy or kill, so which is why they get dangerous terrain on them. This also goes with one of the other mechanics of the book, which is ambush. So shepherds, which are core troops that we'll get into in a minute, have the special ability to ambush if you take a Terrain Master. The next choice is a Beastmaster, 80 points for both Flaith and Tiarna, and this is verbatim from the Dread Elf book. So Beastmaster, friendly units consisting entirely of mounted models or monsters that take a frenzy or stupidity test that are within 12 inches of Beastmaster roll 1 additional d6 and remove the highest d6. At the beginning of each close combat phase, one friendly monster, monster's cavalry, or cavalry unit within 6 inches of the model gain the special rule may gain hatred for the remainder of that phase. Riders are not affected. Note, hatred only allows rerolls to hit in the first round of combat, and that ridden monsters cannot be chosen as targets. So again, like I said, this is mainly verbatim from the Dread Elf book, but again, a part of the faction of this army is, or was, Dread Elves, which is why you see some of these carrying over abilities. They can take Fae Heavy Armor for 16 for Faith or 10 for a Tiarna, or they can take a Shield 10 and 6, respectively. For shooting weapons, you can give them a repeater crossbow for 8 for either, or a longbow, 6 for the Faith, 4 for the Tiarna. You can also give them a list of close combat weapons, so you can give them paired weapons for 10 each, halberds for 10 each, spears for 10 each, halberds for 16 each, a great weapon 20 for the Faith, 16 for the Tiarna, or the Lance of Thorns, which again gives lethal strike and armor piercing 1, 30 for the Faith, and 20 for the Tiarna. You can also give a list of mounts, so you can give it an Elven Horse, 80 for a Faith, or 60 for a Tiarna. You can give it a Bithir, but it has to be part of the Unseelie Corps only, 90 for the Faith, and 70 for the Tiarna. You can give a Great Elk, but that's 120 for either of them, or a Kilby, which is, again, for the Seelie only, 80 for the Faith, or 60 for the Tiarna. Or you can give it a Fairy Dragon for the Faith for 520 points. You notice that both the Bithir and the Kelpie count towards the Fae Folk, while the Dragon counts towards the Bartok, or the Beast version of the book. So this is basically just your general Elven Lord, or hero, that leads the army. They can be part of either of the courts, or they can have some of the other special abilities. If you wanted to go with a more court-themed list, then I would introduce you to the Court Matriarch for 170 points. It has movement 6, weapon skill 6, ballistic skill 4, strength 5, toughness 4, 3 wounds, 6 initiative, 3 attacks, and leadership 8. So not quite as good as on the leadership. They come with paired weapons and Fae light armor. For special rules, they have lightning reflexes, and they are Fae. So that means they are otherworldly, so they come with a 504 save. And then if they are mounted on a throne, they may join non-otherworldly units. So normally, otherworldly troops can only join otherworldly troop types. If you put them on a throne, however, you can join them to any type of unit. You can give them the option to give them wings for 80 points. Wing, the model gains Fly 9, Skirmishing, and Flying Infantry. So a Court Matriarch must be one of the court. It can either be the Seelie or the Unseelie Court. So if they're part of the Seelie Court, they also gain the Seelie Special Court rules. So they gain Strider and Distracting. They also gain the Tree Singing ability. So Bound Spell, power level 3, range 24 inches, duration instant. It affects enemy friendly unit completely inside the forest and all enemy units in contact with the forest. Enemy units suffer d6 strength 5 hits. The target forest and all eligible units, but not the enemy units, move d3 plus 3 inches in a single direction chosen by the caster before the rolling for the distance and following the rules for magical move. The forest immediately stops just before moving into contact with enemy units or other terrain features. So this will go nicely with the Duros seed from the magic items. So that basically turned one item into a forest. This lets you kind of move forest and do damage to enemy units in forests. So you can start seeing some of the mechanics for the Seelie Court. The Seelie can also be a battle standard bearer for 50 points. They can take magic items up to 100 points. And then you can upgrade them with a spear, a Lance of Thorns if they're mounted, or a shield for 10, 20, and 6 points, respectively. You can also give them a mount. You can give them a Kelpie for 80 points, or you can mount them on a Shining Throne for 375 points. So both the Kelpie and the Shining Throne count towards the Fae Folk. And you can see the throne of the court down below. I won't go into too much detail at this point, but when we get to it in the Fae Folk section, I will go into more detail. If, however, you decide to make your Court Matriarch part of the Unseelie Court, they gain the Unseelie Court special rules, and they gain the Aura of Despair. Enemy units in base contact with one or more monarchs with a special rule gain an extra d6 for leadership tests, excluding break tests, and discard the lowest d6 roll. So like I said, the Unseelie are much more combat motivated, so they kind of have more of these combat mechanics, such as the Aura of Despair. They can also be a battle standard bearer for 50 points. you can give the magic items up to 100 points. They can take either the Fae Blades for 10 points or the Longbow for 8 points. They can also be given 1 or 2 mounts, so they can be mounted on a Bethir for 60 points or the Shadow Throne for 375 points. It's almost the same, but when we get to the throne, again, there's a division between the Seelie and the Unseelie. Basically, if it's the Shining Throne and the Shadow Throne. So the Court Matriarch is mainly built if you want to take it on a throne and you want to go with a very court-heavy army. Finally, the last character is the Priestess for 200 points. So this is your caster. Movement 5, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, strength 3, toughness 3, wounds 3, initiative 5, 1 attack, leadership 9. So they are an elf figure. So they come with elven special rules. So they have renowned skill and lightning reflexes. They also gain master of the magical arts. So if your army includes 1 or more models with a special rule, add +1 to channel attempts to your magic phase. And they come as wizard apprentice. You can make them a wizard master for 70 points. And then out of the bat, they come with either witchcraft, divination, or cosmology. However, if you decide to upgrade them to part of the Seelie court, they gain access to druidism and lose witchcraft. And then they have the standard upgrade for spells, 50, 100, 150 for 2, 3, or 4 spells respectively. Wizard apprentice can take up to 100 points of magic items, while wizard master can take up to 200. And if you decide to make it a Seelie, it's a 40-point upgrade, and that allows you the access to druidism. They can also be mounted either on an elven horse, which is missing its point cost, but I think it should probably be about 60, which is what it was for the other character. You can put it on a Kelpie, but it has to be part of the Seelie for 100 points, or you can put it on a fairy dragon, but that's for a wizard master only for 600 points. A Kelpie counts towards the Fae Folk, and a fairy dragon counts towards the matriarch, or the beast section of the book. So that's the last character. So this book only has 3 characters at the moment. If we look at some of the mounts, so the Elven Horse is movement 9, has mounts protection 5+. If the general is part of the Seelie court, the Flaith or Tiarna, and court matriarch, may replace the mounts protection with a 5+ with... Oh, sorry, it has mounts protection 5+. May replace the mounts protection 5+ with light troops and 6+ mount protection for 25 points. So this goes with kind of a more of a... not so much a combat-heavy list, but more of kind of like a maneuverable, moving list, if you are part of the Seelie court. A Grey Elk has a movement of 8. It has 2 attacks, strength 4, toughness 5. It has mounts protection 6+, and strider for the forest. And it also gains devastating charge, so on the charge it gains a 3rd attack. The Kelpie, which counts half towards the Fae Folk, has movement 8, has 1 attack, initiative 4, strength 3, toughness 3. Its mounts protection is 6+, however, it is ethereal, and it is also Fae, because it's otherworldly. The Bithir has movement 7, has 2 attacks, strength 4, toughness 4. It has mounts protection 5+, and it is stupid, though. It has stupidity, so it's kind of the old cold ones. And then the Fairy Dragon is movement 6, fly 7, strength 6, toughness 6, wound 6, 5 attacks, leadership 9. It has innate defense of 3+. It has Strider in the Forest. It has Breath Weapon, strength 4, flaming attacks, and magical attacks. So it's basically your average dragon. I don't know if other dragons have Strider Forest, but this one does because it's a fairy dragon. So those are the different character mounts that we've kind of discussed. Alright, so let's get to the core, or the meat and potatoes of the army. So, at least 25%, like I said. So the first up is the Serenity Wardens. For 180 points, you get 15 models, and you can add up to 35 models for 16 points per model. They are scoring. They have movement 5, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, strength 3, toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 5, 1 attack, leadership 8. They come with light armor and shield, as well as elven special rules, so they both have renowned skill and lightning reflexes, and like I said, they are scoring. You can give them spears for 2 points per model, and then you can give them the full command upgrade for 60 points, or 20 per each, and they can also be given the veteran standard bearer. So these are just your basic sword and board, meat and potatoes, spear or hand weapon and light armor troops. Now actually going too much. There's nothing too much special about them. These are basically just elven warriors. So the next up are the Shepherds of Tranquility. 160 points for 10. You can add 25 models for 20 points per model. They come with Fae light armor and innate defense 6+. They have lightning reflexes. However, they are part of the Seelie Court and are scoring. And again, if you take the Train Master upgrade for the Master of Balance, 1 unit of Shepherds may gain ambush for 2 points per model. And then the character, the Train Master Flaith and Terra join the unit, also gain ambush, of course. So they come with just hand weapons. However, you can upgrade them to great weapons for 2 points per model. And then you can give them the normal Champion Musician Standard Bearer upgrade for 20 points per model as well, although that's missing. They can also have the Veteran Standard Bearer as well for 50 points. So these guys are almost sword and board, except for they have the special ability to ambush, as well as they're also part of the Seelie Court. So that means that they gain Strider and innate defense 6+. Or distracting, sorry. They come with innate defense 6+. And they are also distracting. So they're kind of hard to hit and then have a 5-up armor save. And then you could give them great weapons as well. So the next one are the Acolytes of the Unseemly for 260 points for 10 models. You can add up to 20 models for 23 points per model. They are movement 5, weapon skill 4, bliss skill 4, strength 3, toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 5, 1 attack, and a leadership 8. They come with paired weapons and lightning reflexes because they are elves. However, they are part of the Unseelie Court, so that gives them hatred. They have poison attacks, frenzy, scoring, and are part of the Fae, so that means they're going to be otherworldly. And they come with, and then you can give them the following champion upgrades, so Champion Musician Standard Bearer for 20 points, and you may also upgrade them to have a Veteran Standard Bearer. So these models are quite deadly. They come with paired weapons, so they have 2 attacks, and they'll frenzy, so 3 attacks. They'll frenzy as well as being hatred, so they can be pretty devastating on the first turn. However, they don't have any armor, but they do have otherworldly because they'll Fae, so they do have a 5-up ward save. Although if your opponent has mundane weapons, that only goes to a 6-up. So they are kind of fragile, but they are initiative 5, so hopefully they will be going before most other units. However, they do count towards both the core as well as the Fae Folk. So the next one are the Faithful Watchers for 200 points, for 10 points per model. You may add up to 20 models for 20 points per model. This unit counts towards both core and hunters and is scoring. They are movement 5, weapon skill 4, bliss skill 4, strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, 5 initiative, 1 attack, leadership 8. They come with repeater crossbows. They also have light armor and they'll elven special rules, so renowned skill and lightning reflexes, and are also scoring. You can give them shields for 2 points per model, as well as the following, standard upgrades for 20 points, and you can also give them a Veteran Standard Bearer if you'd like. So these are basically your range units. You can go with either small units of 10 or a big block for 30, and they count towards both core and the hunter units. The next group are the Polka Wanderers for 170 points for 5 models. You can add up to 10 more for 30 points per model, and they again count towards both core and hunters, and 0 to 4 units per army. So these guys are mounted, so they'll mounted on elven horses. So they have mounts protection. This says 6 mounts protection 6-up, light armor, and they have elven special rules, so renowned skill, lightning reflexes, weapons, so they have light lance, and then they'll fast cavalry. You can give them a repeater crossbow for 6 points per model, or you can give them a shield for 6 points per model, as well as giving them the standard command upgrades of 20 points each. And that rounds off the core units. So next we go into the hunters, which take up 30%. So the first one are the Ashen Sprites for 170 points for 5 models, and you can add 5 models for 32 points per model. 0 to 3 units per army, 0 to 20 models per army. So you can either take 3 small units of 5 or a couple units of 10, basically. They have movement 4, weapon skill 5, bliss skill 5, strength 3, toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 5, 1 attack, and leadership 8. They come with throwing weapons. They have Fae light armor as well as lightning reflexes. And they are part of the Unseelie court, as that gives them distracting and Strider. They also are scouts and skirmishers. And then you can upgrade them to great weapons for 4 points of model if you like, as well as Fae blades, so you can give them 2-hand weapons. And then you can upgrade one of them to a champion if you'd like, to make them a bit more combative instead of just being kind of rangers. The next unit are the Forest Reapers. So you can have 0 to 3 units per army. This is a war machine, so it's a bolt thrower with 2 crew. They come with light armor. The crew have elven special rules, so renowned skill and lightning reflexes. And then it's a basic elven bolt thrower, so it can be fired in one of 2 ways. So as a bolt thrower artillery weapon with range 48 inches, strength 3 or 6, multiple wounds D3, armor piercing 6. Or as a volley gun, 6 artillery with range 48 inches, strength 4, armor piercing 1. So your basic bolt thrower, basically. So that brings us to this special, which has no limit. The first one is the Silent Sentinels for 240 points. For 10 models, and then you can add up to 20 models for 28 points per model. They are scoring. They have movement 5, weapon skill 6, plus skill 4, strength 3, toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 6, 2 attacks each, and leadership 9. So they come with halberds and heavy armor. They have the elven special rules, so renowned skill and lightning reflexes. They are immune to psychology and have bodyguard for the masters of balance. Armor piercing 1. As well as scoring, and then you can give them the common champion upgrade, champion musician standard bearer. You can also give your champion a magic weapon for up to 50 points, and then you can give them a magic standard for up to 100 points. So this is kind of your hard-hitting elite brick unit, which has bodyguard, so the one that, kind of the reliable one that won't run from combat. The next one are the Unsealing Knights, which count towards both core and Fae Folk. 260 points for 5 models, and then you can add 7 models for 52 points per model. They are scoring and 0 to 4 units per army. So these knights ride the Bethir. So the rider have movement, the movement's irrelevant. So they have weapon skill 5, will skill 4, strength 4, toughness 3, 1 wound, 6 initiative, 1 attack, and 9 leadership. While the Bethir has movement 7, strength 4, toughness 4, and 2 attacks. They have mounts protection 5+, and have heavy armor and have shield, so that gives them 2 up armor save. 5, 4, 3. Yeah, 2 up armor save. The rider has lance, and they are part of the Unseelie court, hence the name. So that gives them hatred. They also have lightning reflexes, and like I said, are scoring. And then the Bethir has stupidity. Again, you can give them the normal upgrades, as well as giving them a magic standard for 100 points. So these are kind of your better than average knights, but not your elite knights. So next we go to the Kilby. So there's 150 points for 5 models. Again, they count towards both special and the Fae Folk, which is why your Fae Folk is, again, 45%, because a lot of these units count towards both. You can add up to 10 points per model. You can add 10 more models, 12 points per model. And you can have 0 to 2 units per army. The movement is 8, weapon skill 3, strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, 4 attacks, initiative 4, 1 attack, 4 leadership. They have innate defense 6+, ethereal, fast cavalry, Unseelie court, and Fae. So again, the Unseelie gives you Strider, and, they already have Strider because they'll basically mount. Strider and distracting. So the next up is the Sirens for 180 points, and they are pure special for 5 points. You can add up for 5 more models for 24 points per model. You can have 0 to 2 units per army. The movement is 5, but they can fly 10. Weapon skill 3, strength 3, toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 6, 2 attacks, leadership 6. So for special rules, they have fly 10, distracting, skirmishing, and they have the Siren Song. So they are the flying infantry, so stomps hits can never be distributed to a model with a special rule. So the Siren Song, a breath weapon, D3 wounds per siren model, strength 3, magical attacks. If the target of the Siren Song takes at least 1 wound, the unit model must make an immediate leadership test. If the test is failed, the unit may not declare charges, march, cast spells, or shoot in the subsequent turn. So basically, if if you take 1 wound and you fail the leadership test, you're basically enthralled by the sirens and can't do as much on your next turn. Alright, and then next we have the Judicators for 240 points for 10 models, and you can add 20 models for 26 points per model. They are scoring. They have movement 5, weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 4, strength 4, toughness 3, 1 wound, 5 initiative, 1 attack, 8 leadership. They come with heavy armor, and they have the lightning reflexes from being an elf. They are part of the Unseely court and are scoring. So they have Strider and whatever the Unseely also has, I forgot at this point, sorry. And Distracting, sorry. So they have heavy armor and are Distracting, and they come with Glade Blades. Oh, sorry, the Unseely, so they have Hatred. Ignore that, the part of the Unseely, Hatred. So the Glade Blades are great weapons. Attacks made with the weapon gain lethal strike and multiple wounds 2 against infantry, warbeast, and cavalry. So these are kind of your elite multi-wound infantry that can put out quite a bit of damage, as well as having hatred. So they hopefully will hit, and not flub. Again, they have the standard upgrades for 20 points each, and then they can take a magic standard for 100 points. All right, and last up for the special are the Disciples of the Seelie Court for 200 points for 10 models. You can add up to 20 models for 22 points per model. They are scoring, but they both count towards your special and your Fae Folk. The movement is 5, weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 4, strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, 5 initiative, 1 attack, leadership 8. They come with Fae light armor, and they come with the Fae blades, so they have 2 attacks basically, and have armor piercing 1. They have lightning reflexes, and they are part of the Seelie court, so this is where they are Distracting and have Strider. They are scoring and are also Fae, so that gives them a 5 upward save, or a 6 up if you have mundane weapons. One unit may become skirmishers and lose scoring for 2 points per model at a max of 15 models per unit. May upgrade 1 unit for the regular upgrades. So you can give them full command for 20 points, and then you can also give them a magic standard for up to 100 points. Alright, so that brings us to the pure Fae Folk section, which is 45%. So again, a lot of the units are part core, part Fae Folk, so this is why the Fae Folk section is so large, because a lot of your units come from this section. So the first one is the Siddith, for 120 points. It's a single model, 0 to 3 units per army. Movement is 6 or 9 flying. Weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 4, strength 4, toughness 4, 3 wounds, 5 initiative, 5 attacks, leadership 8. It's monstrous infantry, so it's on a 40 by 40 millimeter base. It's part of the Unseelie court, so it gains hatred. It's also Distracting. It has Swift Stride, Fear, Fae, so 5 upward save, Fly 9, and Strider Forest. You can give them one of the upgrades of either a halberd, a spear, or a Fae blade for 14, 10, and 20 points. So these are some of your kind of your big monsters that you can either kind of go around monster or war machine hunting, or use them to kind of as a chaff clears, because they should be able to get rid of most chaff, or you can use them to kind of in composition with some of your other units and kind of come in the flanks, because they can fly and get the very maneuverable. The next one are the Silph Knights for 290 points for 5 models, or you can add up to 5 more models for 56 points per model. They are scoring, and you can have 0 to 2 units per army. So these are riding Great Elk. So the rider has weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 4, strength 4, toughness 3, 1 wound, 5 initiative, 1 attack, leadership 9. The elk has movement 9, weapon skill 3, strength 4, toughness 4, 4 initiative, 2 attacks, and leadership 3. They come with mass protection 6+, and Fae light armor. The rider has the Lance of the Thorn, which is the lethal strike and armor piercing 1. And they come with the special rules of Seelie Court, so they are Distracting and Strider. They have lightning reflexes, Strider Forest, light troops, poison attacks, and they are Fae, so they also come with otherworldly, so 5 upward save. You can give them a champion for 120 points, and the reason why it's so expensive is because it allows you to have be able to cast Wizard Master Druidism or Break the Spirit from Shamanism. So basically it allows you to have another caster. And they can also take either a Musician and Standard Bearer, and then they can take a Magic Standard for 100 points, although the 100 looks like it's missing from this image. Alright, so... Oh, this is just getting the rest of it. Sorry. So the Great Elk has Devastating Charge. So, yeah. Alright, so the last section in the Fae Folk is the Throne of the Court for 340 points. It's a single model. You can have one unit per army. So it's a wagon. Movement 6, weapon skill 6, plus skill 4, strength 5, toughness 4, 3 wounds, 6 initiative for the disciples, 3 attacks for the disciples, and leadership 8. So it's on a chariot 60 by 100mm base, mounts protection 6 up, and Fae light armor. The disciples can either take light lances for 10 points or paired weapons for 20 points. The wagon has impact hits +1, so d6 +1, towering presence, and the war platform. The Throne of the Court has a 4-up ward save and has divine blessings, channel, and fear. And then the disciples are elves, so they have renowned skill and lightning reflexes and poison attacks. So when you choose the throne, you have to pick one of the 2 courts. So it has to be either the Shining Throne or the Shadow Throne for the Seelie or the Unseelie. So if it's the Shining Throne for the Seelie court, it has divine blessings, which are all friendly units within 6 inches of the throne gain hard target special rule, as well as being able to cast. So the Shining Throne of the Seelie court can cast Master of Earth from Druidism as a balance bearer power level 5. If you decide to go with the Shadow Throne for the Unseelie court, all friendly units within 12 inches of the Shadow Throne gain Lethal Strike. Any close combat attacks made that already have Lethal Strike must re-roll failed rolls to wound. Mounts are unaffected, and then it can cast the Shadow Throne of the Unseelie court can cast Break the Spirit from Shamanism as a balance spell power level 5. So again, the Seelie court is much more kind of maneuverability. It's not so hard hitting, while the Shadow Throne for the Unseelie court, it's much more lethal. It's much more hard hitting. So you take this in a much more combat oriented army. So now we get to the monsters, or the Bethark, for only 25%, but again, the Fairy Dragon does go into this section. So the first one is the Feist for 360 points. You can have 0 to 3 units per army, and it's a 50 on 100mm base. It has movement 6 or fly 8, weapon skill 5, 1 ballistic skill, strength 7, toughness 5, wounds 5, 3 initiative, 4 attacks, leadership 8, and has innate defense 4 up. It has poison attacks, multiple wounds d3, stride of forest, and a flying 8. So this is kind of a flying drake, basically, that goes around and, well, it's a monster, so whatever you want it to destroy, basically. And then the next one is the Ellen Trekhead for 440 points. It's a single model. Again, you can have up to 3 of them. Movement 6, weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 1, strength 5, toughness 5, wounds 5, 2 initiative, 7 attacks, leadership 8. Again, it's on a monster-sized base. It also has innate defense 4 up. However, it has a regeneration save of 4 up and breath weapon flaming attack. Breath weapon strength 4 flaming attacks. And then so here at the very back is just the quick reference sheet. Oh, sorry, my voice is starting to go. With all the units and characters. Yeah, so I know I kind of went through that quickly. I didn't go into great detail. I did notice a few mistakes, but if you guys would like to point mistakes out and what you think about it, that would be fantastic. Yeah, so I mean, this is basically our first try at it, our first swing at it. So if you guys could give feedback. I mean, I know you guys will criticize it. That's fine. Just try to make them constructive criticisms. So I mean, don't just tell me they're awful. Tell me why it's awful. Tell me that things are overpowered. Things need to be fixed. But yeah, we really enjoyed doing this book. We may do ones in the future, but for now, this is taking up most of our time. But yeah, I would like to hear you guys' thoughts. If you like the army, if you don't like the army, what you think we should change, what you like, what you want us to not change. But yeah, I think I'm just rambling now, so I'm going to go and head out. But if you guys could hit like and subscribe, as always, that'd be great. And as always, game on.